Hi. Following on the very windy creation of my 3 metre by 1 metre no-dig bed in the previous video, I thought I would stay inside because it's still raining outside. I thought I would explain succession sowing because that is the way that we are going to be most efficient and most productive in that small cutting patch that we've just created. So if you're interested in trying to get as many flowers as you can in a small space, then stay tuned and I'll explain how. So when you've got a small space to grow your season's worth of flowers, you want it to be as productive as possible. Now you could plant all of your seeds in April, May, let them grow and cut them as you need them, and then when their flowers are spent, that is the end of your season. Now if you're not cutting a lot, then that may be sufficient. You maybe don't need to bother sowing anymore. The few plants that you get going in April, May take you through the whole of the season. And certainly that was the case for me last year with some of my flowers. So the Cosmos, cornflowers and Amimagus, I planted not many plants actually, but once they started flowering, they stayed flowering right through till September. In fact, the Cosmos was one of the few plants that were still left flowering when I was emptying the beds. So they took me through. However, I will say I didn't pick much Cosmos for some reason. The Amimagus I didn't pick until later in the season because I had other things that I could pick. And the cornflower, I did pick quite a bit of that, but I had two colours. I had blue ball and black ball. The blue ball was really quite, I thought, gaudy and didn't really work well with a lot of the flowers that I had. So the black ball was definitely more useful for me. But you don't need many of them. They're quite a small flower, so it's really just about adding depth to your floral arrangements rather than it creating much volume. So you didn't take much of those flowers. So depending on what your flowers are and how big your arrangements are and what your style is will determine how many plants you need. But as an example, if you're creating a vase for a vase of flowers for, let's say, 30 stems, just to keep the maths easy. So for 30 stems, and you use 6 different plants. So 2 of those plants will be foliage, 2 of those plants will be fillers, and 2 of those plants will be focal flowers. So that's the usual way of having an arrangement. It's split third. Now some of those foliage flowers, if you've got shrubs, you don't need to plant those. So you do need to take into account your set of circumstances. So I'm assuming you're starting from scratch with nothing else to use in your arrangements. So you want 30 stems, you've got 6 varieties, because that then means that the bed can be broken down nicely into 20 centimetre blocks or rows. And so for one bouquet, you'll need 5 stems of each plant, and that will give you your 30 stems to make your arrangement. In most cases, and I am going to be very general here, in most cases, the most plants will give you about 5 stems per plant. Not all cases and not all at once in some instances. So you need to kind of be careful which ones you choose, and you'll get that with experience. But most plants will give you 5 flowering stems at any one time once they start flowering in earnest. So for 1 week you need one plant of 6 varieties. So that's got 1 week out of the way. So let's just assume there's 4 weeks in a month. We know some months have more than others, but let's make the maths easy. So if you've got 4 weeks to produce, you want vases 4 weeks once the season's growing, then you need 4 plants of each of those flowers. Did I say that right? You need 4 plants of each of the varieties to get your 30 stems for each vase that you want to create. Now, different weeks might have different arrangements because some plants might be more in bloom and so you use more of those. You might have something else in the garden that you might want to use, so a rose may be flowering that you could add in place, or a peony or whatever. But in general, for a 5-stem plant, for a 5-stem flowering plant, then you need 6 plants. If you're using 6 varieties, then you need 6 plants for 1 vase. So therefore, for 1 month, you need 4 plants. Now, I would err on the side of caution and maybe go for 5 or 6 plants, so it gives you a little bit of a spread over that month period. So for the space, the 3 month by 1 month, 3 month by 1 month, 3 meters by 1 month bed, you're looking at creating rows of 5 plants every month. So for me, to keep things, I don't want to be sowing every other week because, life's short. So I once a month, in my mind, I can think the first of the month is a sowing day, and therefore I'm sowing my seeds for that month. But I only need to get 5 seeds or 5 plants, so I don't need to sow loads. It just needs to be a few. You can change the varieties as you go through the season. You could perhaps have different varieties of that plant. It's difficult to what to call a plant. So if you have cosmos, for instance, you may have a pink one, a white one and a peach one all in the same row in batch 1. Or you may choose to have it pink in the first batch, white in the second batch, and peach in the third batch if you want to do the variety. Or you could have the same colour throughout the whole of your season, and that's what you use going forward. So it's up to you how many seeds you want to buy for a start, and how much variety you want. But really, you're looking at every month trying to get 5 plants of 6 varieties, and that will give you a vase, a 30-stem vase, every week from the growing season. Now, your growing season will start and end at different times depending on where your location is. So for me, my last frost date is round about the middle of May, and my first frost date can be up till November. So I can't sow out into my garden, direct sow, until the middle of May. But if I am not direct sowing, so I've got greenhouse access and or I can sow in trays and put them on the windowsill, I can start those plants off earlier, and we've got a head start on the growing season. But essentially, what we're looking at is planting regularly, a set of seeds regularly, and that's succession sowing. And the benefits it will give you is that it'll extend your season for any one plant. It will help reduce the risk of any issues. So it may be that you get attacked with aphids one season. That may affect one batch. But because you've got another set of seeds coming up, then you might be fine. So, okay, you've lost your first batch, but your second set's coming. Your third set will be then on its way. So you've not lost all of your flowers for the whole season. So if you planted them all out and they're all gone, then that's it. You may have left it too late. But if you know that you're planning to be sowing them every month, then they're all going to be different stages of development, and so they won't all get attacked the same. So it gives you a bit of resiliency in your sowing so that you can have flowers going. So it extends the season, it reduces your risk of failure, so it gives you a bit of resiliency, and it can help give you the option of increasing varieties if you want to. So you can change with the seasons. So as you progress through the summer, you may want to get in the spring more softer and pale and pastel-y, springy type colours, whereas come autumn you're wanting the more rusty and autumnal colours, and in the middle of the summer you want bright and vibrant to go with the season. Who knows? Pick your colour, or you might have the same colour going through all of the season. It's up to you, but it gives you the choice. So succession sowing gives you that flexibility to just withstand so much more and extend your season so much more, particularly if you've got a limited space. So in our 3 metre by 1 metre bed, we have a limited space, and so we need to be smart about how we're going to sow. If you want to know how to plan for your succession sowing, I've got 2 videos coming up. One about direct sowing, so how to plan for the direct, if you've only got the availability of direct sowing. And the second one is if you can plant using the greenhouse, so it can extend your season a bit more, and it actually does change what you would plant and how much you can plant if you can sow some of your seeds outside of the bed. So if you're interested in how to plan for your sowing bed, then watch the videos coming up.